In segment 1, we'll be talking about the basic supplies and management techniques that you'll need to use in your classroom so that clay will be an easy, fun experience for you. We'll be shaping some cut and pinch animals, which are a good start because you don't add on any parts and so they stay together better. We'll also do shaping with our hands and attaching various parts in a way that is pretty likely to stay on. Hello, my name is Donna and I'm the clay lady at South Kitsap Schools. I've been doing clay for a very long time, and I hope I can show you some ideas so that you'll want to do clay in your classroom too. I've tried to use as few materials as possible and as little money as possible. So first we're going to start with the basic things that you need. You do need a mat for each student, and there is a download on the website that you can get more detailed information about what I'm saying now. So for scratching tools, you can use a plastic fork, a toothpick, or a paper clip. We use water in cups, which I buy at the thrift shop because they're nice and stable, and I get old toothbrushes, boil them, and use them. I don't put much water in it because there's less to clean up that way when it spills. I use erasers and pencil points. These are great tools. So if you get a pencil and round the eraser down so it's a nice rounded shape and sharpened at the other end, you can do a lot of things with this tool. I find various nature stamps that we can press into the clay, and I will show you more how to use them later, also using fresh ferns and leaves. You can also use man-made found objects, although I personally don't use them so much myself because I really like the nature stamps better. But there are a lot of designs that you can make with these, and the net bags that come around produce, onions, garlic, things like that, are very useful. They can press into the clay and make the scales on a fish. So I do encourage you to please not use cookie cutters, not use lace doilies, because those things are something that someone else made. Children can be much more creative than that, and so please give them a chance to really show their creativity. We're going to talk about how we present these supplies in the classroom, how to cut the clay. I use many trays, one for each team, and put the tools in it that those students will need. Especially for the younger children, I do not put tools that they don't need in them. And I use pie tins for passing out the clay. You will definitely want to buy a cutting tool, need wire, and to use it efficiently, your left hand will be an anchor that you hold. You wrap the right hand around, making an even distance all the way around, and pull towards your left hand. The children are quite fascinated by seeing this wire cut through the clay. This is a great time to have a little math lesson thrown in. So I might say, well, I'm cutting 4 pieces of clay. Now I'm picking them up and cutting them into half, into 2 pieces here. So we've got 4 times 8. So think, how many pieces is that? Now I've turned it again, and I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces. I'm still carefully measuring my way around the block of clay. So who knows how many pieces I made? We had 2 times 4 times 3. So I'm not saying how much that is. Now, when you've got these cut, you need to pull them apart yourself, and you can get ready ahead of time if you want to. This just twists off like that, and have these ready for use later on. And all you need to do is give them a little spray with water and cover them with a produce bag And they will stay just fine for hours that way. So if you wanted to have a parent get ready ahead of time, you could do that. For your finished projects, when you have completed them, I get produce boxes from Costco and line them with some newspaper. You see that they stack neatly and they allow for some air in between. I put them up high with extra newspaper on top so that they don't take a lot of room and they're out of the way of little fingers. Cleaning up, do not let the children wash their hands in the sink, please, because the clay will go into the pipes and eventually clog the pipes. So I usually will get a bucket on the floor and a couple of old towels, and I wash in there first, and then they go to the bathroom to wash. Some people use baby wipes. I don't like to use the money for that, but that is a choice. We're going to talk about different things that you can make that are not too complicated. And the first one is called cut and pinch animals. And quite a long time ago, I got a little elephant like this, and I kept looking at it trying to figure out how this was made because there aren't any added on pieces. And so finally I figured it out, and I'm going to show you because this is a great thing to do with young children. You can do it with kindergartners. You need to have plenty of adults helping you because they'll have many questions along the way. So we're going to start by rolling a small piece of clay. If you get it too large, it's too difficult for their hands to manage. So we talk about rolling around like this, and we talk about rolling this way. You can also do this on your mat, rolling around and rolling this way. When you get it about this big, you're going to tap it on the bottom. Take a popsicle stick and divide it into 3 by marking it with a popsicle. I call this eyeball measuring. Mark it, show your teacher, cut it with your stick almost halfway down. Next, we're going to turn this into an animal. So we're going to take the front half of this and push it up and create the neck and head of the animal. We're not going to worry too much about what kind of an animal we're making. You can make a lot of different kinds of animals, and if you look at the downloads, there are measurements, ideas for how to cut and make a lot of different animals. So I've pushed this up to make a neck, thinning it out. I go around, not just in one direction, moving it around. Now I'm making the head. Getting the children to smooth out the rough places is very important. We're going to leave that for now. We'll work on it later. And now we're going to go back down here and going to cut it across like this. Same thing, about halfway up, a little less than halfway. These will become legs. So we'll open this and get our pinchers into here, working on all 4 legs at the same time. It's very difficult for young children to attach things onto clay well, and the beauty of this technique is you're not attaching anything. It's all coming out of the same lump of clay. Now we can think of going back and adding more detail to this. Might like to have a tail on this. Just pinch a tail with your hand. You can pinch some ears. You can use a tool to make a mouth, a little toothpick pressed in here. Don't forget the nostrils. And I took apart a ballpoint pen and you can use that for making eyes. You just set it down gently and wobble it. Do not push, do not twist, just wobble. And I think that's enough for that animal, but I do want to show you something. I thought this was just a very elementary way of shaping, and a 10-year-old boy taught me otherwise. He made a Triceratops that was so cool. This is mine. It's not quite as good as his, but you can do some pretty sophisticated animals with this technique. When the child thinks that they're done, check that it's going to stand up, because if it tends to fall forward, you can always push the head back a little bit to make it more stable. You will find some really good directions for these cut and pinch animals that show a lot of different ways that you can cut the clay with the popsicle stick to make various animals. Another thing that I would like to suggest is that if you get the Crayola modeling clay and roll it into small balls with one stick, makes a ball like this. This is great for practicing. It's clean, you don't make any mess. Children can have a lot of time to experiment. And also to download, there is a sheet that you can cut into smaller pieces, and each child makes something during the day, sets it on the paper, and has it available for the day. And another child will hopefully clean it up at the end of the day and ready for more making the following day. So now we're going to talk about basic shaping techniques, and I'm going to make sure that I keep my hands moist, because dry hands, especially children's warm dry hands, cracks the clay. So first is that almost everything I make starts with a moist ball. That way you've got a good solid shape, no rough edges, and there are many shapes that you can make with this ball. You can do it on the mat or just between your two hands. You can make a hot dog shape. So we were doing a round sphere ball shape. Now we're going to do a hot dog shape. And this is a little tricky because it tends to flatten. You can have the children put it down and get it rounded again. You can keep going with this. Get it thinner and thinner, and then you can do things with it. You could make a snake. I like to make a snail. And then I like to turn it into a cinnamon bun. We're not saving any of these things. We're not worrying about attaching anything together. We're just having fun shaping. Now we're going to go back to our ball shape. I'll show you something else that you can make. We're going to make a raindrop shape next. There are many, many things that you can make with a raindrop shape. To make that, the easiest way is to set it down on your mat. Put your hand at a slant with your pinky side down on the mat and go back and forth. And as you go, you're pushing on part of that ball. So keep going till you get to your raindrop shape. This is good to make a mouse, a head of a mouse, a bird. You could see that becoming a bird. You can make a Christmas tree out of this. You can turn it into a Christmas tree and give it some branches by just pushing your pencil into it. You can make an elf's hat. Pinch it. So you might have somebody who needs a hat for Christmas. You can make him one. You can also make a cube shape, again starting with the ball. And the cube, hold it gently, tap it, turn it, tap it, turn it, tap. Okay, so you just keep going till it gets even more of a cube shape. This is great for making dice. And in the directions to download, there's some more information about what you can do with this. So now we're going to have to talk about attaching. So we've talked about how to shape these things, but we need to stick things together. And so we must, absolutely must, scratch, wet, and push things together. So if we have two pieces of clay that we want to stick together, generally people will push it together like that and they'll say, that is stuck. And it is stuck for today. Tomorrow, the next day, it falls off because it's not attached. So it is essential that we scratch it, wet it, and push it together. Those are the steps: scratch, wet, push. For larger things, we can use a plastic fork. For smaller things, you can use a paper clip or a toothpick to scratch them. So I'm going to use this fork, and I push this on here to see where I'm going to put it. Take it off, I can see the mark, and I'm going to scratch up and down and sideways. And then I also have to scratch the piece that I'm putting on, up and down, sideways. I always throw in a math problem here, so if I've scratched it 5 times horizontally, vertically on both pieces, how many scratches is that? Somebody always knows. So I've done my scratching. That's step 1. Step 2, little bit of water on one piece. Step 3, push it together with a wiggle. That gets the clay pieces interlocked. So now we're going to make some animals using the shaping that we have been doing, and show you how to make. First thing we'll make is a little mouse. It's a very, very easy project. As you see on these, I have put a base, which is nice because that way you can add accessories. Give your cheese to a mouse. But to start with, we'll just make a plain mouse. We're going to roll a moist ball. Now we're going to make that raindrop shape. Put my hand down, slanted on the mat. You can also do this up like this, but it's a little bit harder. So this is going to be my entire mouse from tip to tail. Encourage the children to gently smooth things with their fingers. It's usually better not to use water because they use too much water, and you want a little bit of friction to do that. So we're going to put 2 ears on the top of this, and it's best if you can get the children to make the 2 balls at the same time. So don't make one ear, then try to make another one. Start with a ball of clay, cut it right down the middle. Even this is really great practice for the kids to eyeball measure how something looks if it's cut into 2 parts or 4 parts. Roll each one into a ball. Decide where they're going to go on your mouse. Okay, I like that. So now I'm going to take them off again, and I'm going to use my paper clip this time because it's a very tiny area, and I'm just going to scratch where I want those ears to go. I'll scratch my ears also. That's step 1. 2, wet. 3. Now these are just balls of clay. Push them onto the mouse, wiggle them a little bit. Now, these don't look so good. We need to shape them. So we're going to use our pinchers, and we're going to pinch them like a pancake. Whoop. And then, so that the mouse can hear very, very well when the cat is sneaking up on him, we're going to cup his ears so he can catch the sounds. So I'm going to put my finger behind his ear, and I'm taking that rounded pencil eraser I told you about earlier, and I'm going to push it in the ear from the front, which gives it a real, true mouse ear shape. Okay, I'm going to take that ballpoint pen, make some little eyes for him. Remember, set it down, wobble, set it down, wobble. A mouth, popsicle stick again. I don't usually cut them open, I just make a little mark where it goes. And you can pinch it to a little bit of a point if you like, or you could even add a tiny little ball, but you still, even though that's tiny, you still have to scratch both pieces. And always please give your animals nostrils. They will thank you. And pupils. It makes them look very much more realistic. So we could stop with his face right there, leave it at that. We could draw on some whiskers if we wanted to. But now we do need to give him a tail. And children might think it's pretty cute to add a tail sticking up like this, and it is. This is quite cute, and it's almost guaranteed to break off because we have to pick things up and move them to the kiln and put them in the kiln, take them out. So we're going to do something better than that, something that's going to last. So I put it on, I know where it goes, I'm scratching. Wetting. So the rule is the tail has to touch the mouse in 2 places. And so I can take this and bend it around so it touches his body in 1 more place. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to touch it here, move it back, scratch it, wet it, and push it down. This little mouse doesn't have any feet. You can, like this little mouse, add some little balls on the front to give him some feet. And I always take a toothpick and push little toes in like that. I think I'm going to show you how to make a cat next. And this is what he looks like. So because I like to add more accessories, I like to start with a pancake base. So you can put more figures on it. That for just so many different things that you make. If you're making a Christmas tree, you need to put packages under it. And so you'll want to have a base. As you're pushing this, don't push on the edges, push in the middle. If a child ends up pushing something really, really too thin, all you have to do is fold it under. You're good to go. Okay. So now to make the body of this cat, we're going to make that same raindrop shape. You can see it there. I've made a head before. I'm going to see how that fits on him. Okay, that looks like it's a good-sized head for this cat. And so I'm going to attach the body onto the base. Okay, now we're going to go and scratch the base. Step 2, as you know. Step 3, wiggle push. Now, if children have extra scratches showing on their base, I always tell them this is secret information. We don't want people knowing how we put these things together. They have an eraser finger. They are to take that finger and erase those extra scratches so nobody knows how we do them. Okay, just keep it secret. When you make the head, make the entire head, then attach it. It's too difficult to work with this attached on here. I'm going to just leave the head sitting down there on the mat, and we're going to make, let's see, it's the back legs on it. And again, you want to make both pancakes at the same time. These are going to make his upper leg just up, and his lower leg. I'm going to take this and cut it in half. It's getting dry, so I need to keep my hands moist. And this is going to be a fairly flat pancake. It doesn't need to stick out a lot. So I'm going to flatten this and check it for size. That looks too fat for me. I don't like it, so I'm going to make it smaller. Please make mistakes for the children so they can see that you test things, you evaluate, and you change. Okay? It's a process that we go through all the time. We want to see if we like it. We might ask our friend, does it look okay to you? Yeah, that looks better to me. So these are going to go one on each side, so they're like his hips. So put them on there, check them, take them off, scratch again. Also, when children are working, I warn them, I'm going to come around and try and pull your project apart, so you better scratch it, because I can tell if you forgot to scratch. They get very involved in the making process and they forget to scratch. And so do go around, check their work by just trying to pull it off gently and see if they've remembered to scratch. You'd be surprised. Next thing we're going to go do is give them some feet. The feet are, again, raindrop shapes. Since we want 2 of them, we'll take, and I'll usually say, take a ball about this big and cut it in half for the feet. But it doesn't have to be exactly that big, just about that big. And then you decide if that's right for your cat. So this will be a raindrop shape that's going to come down here to make his feet coming out like that, okay? So I'm going to scratch this with the paper clip because it's very small. So this is mostly on the base and a little bit on his body. Children will often make one foot, and then they'll come to you and say, I made this foot, but I can't make another one. So then I just say, well, you have to make them both at the same time. A little planning ahead. Now, my cat needs toes. So I'm going to take my popsicle stick and push in, and push in, push in, push in. Okay, I guess he needs some arms. And you can either just put little balls for arms, or you can do longer ones like this. I'm going to do them like this. And I'm going to have him with his arms up. You could do them down like this, but I'm going to have them going up because he's going to hold something in his paws. Encourage children to put their own individuality in the things that they're making. They shouldn't try to match you. They want to do it the way they want to. And as they're working, go around and reward them. Look what so-and-so did. They did it this way, and they did it that way. And show them that there are many, many ways to be successful with clay. So I've got my 2 balls that I'm thinking I'm going to make arms. I may think these are too big. I don't know. yeah, these look too big to me. And so what I will do, I'll just pinch them off. That's what I'll do. So I want them to match. Good side-by-side measuring. I use my fingernails. They don't have any. You can use a popsicle stick. So we're going to stick those on the side of his body, have him reaching out in front, and then we're giving him a toy to hold. This would be a good time to show them how to blend attachments in. So I have just stuck these on here, but arms don't just stick on like that. They look like they grew there. So we're going to take our thumb and blend in this clay. There are many, many times when it looks better to blend it in. Okay, and of course she needs some toes on the front, feet. And later on, I'll give her a ball to hold. Now, I made this cat head earlier, and I'm going to make another one a little bit differently so you can see two different ways to do it. So to start with, I like to take my thumbs and push in a little bit for what will be the eye area. And I have a picture here to look at for the two different approaches. The one I've already made is this number 1. Now I'm doing number 2, and I've just pushed in a little bit for the eyes, and then I'm going to make little cheeks, nose, and chin on him. They're very small. Make a ball, cut it in half. Pinch it. So these are going to go to either side on his face. So we'll scratch. And they will meet in the middle. So we have that eye area pushed in. Now we're starting these cheeks. Little chin and a little nose on top. Sometimes just poking it when it's real tiny like that works well. Nostrils. Kids usually go straight in. That's okay too. Okay, we're going to draw some very gentle whiskers on him. Then I'll get my ballpoint pen again, and I think I'll give him some big eyes. I'm going to use this end of the pen. Set it down, wobble it, set it down, wobble it, make pupils. What's left on his head? Ears. You saw how to do that on the mouse. It's the same thing on the cat, only the shape is not exactly the same. The other cat head that I made, I didn't add anything on here at all, and I made this J and the backwards J shape using the paper clip. I took my paper clip, I marked where his nose was, and I just went like this with the paper clip. So that's another good way to do it. Or they can draw it on with a pencil, but it usually makes too much of a mess. So it's better to just push in the clay rather than draw on it. So I'm not shaping the ears, they're just balls right now. So what shape do cats' ears come to? Well, domestic cats, wild cats, what kind of cats? What kind of cat do you have? My cat is my pet cat at home. And I'm giving him pointed ears because that's what my cat looks like. We will again take our finger behind, pencil eraser in front, and push in to round the ears so that he can hear you coming. So either of these heads are great. This one's a little harder, but they can do it. So next thing we're going to do is attach this onto his head really, really well. So I'd say good 10 scratches this way, 10 that way. Back here, another 10 and 10. Many children will not scratch hard enough, but you cannot give a direction that says scratch it really hard because other children will scratch it too hard. So you just need to go around and tell them, a little harder, not so hard. Okay, and this wiggling is really important. So he only needs one more thing. What is it? You know, what is it?
A tail!
Thank you! Okay, so same rule, it's got to touch in 2 places. Never let you get away with a tail only touching one place, never. So I'm scratching 2 places back here where I want my tail to go. Scratching the tail. It's a little bit like a cup on a handle. Okay. I think that's enough for now. If I had a smaller mouse, here's one. If I had a smaller mouse, I could put him on there too, and they could be friends. Or you could even have the cat hold a little tiny mouse like they're having a little conversation together. So encourage variety, please. And I think that's enough for now. Okay, goodbye. Before you go, I want to show you a download that you might like to use. We have a lot of good ideas spelled out on the paper downloads. This one here is an island that you can make, which many different types of subject matter can be on it. And the best thing about it is it's all in one piece when the child finishes. And so you only have one piece to pick up for each child. Check out the downloads.